our guy, the Maestro, Martin Scorsese, in my opinion, masterpiece, Killers of the Flower Moon. I saw that when we was recording the last episode. I went straight to Burbank, caught that late show. Got home like almost 3 a.m, but it was well worth the time. I stayed up. Killers of the Flower Moon, if you don't know, is about, which I didn't know was a true story. That shit blew my, because the shit stuck with me for a while. In Oklahoma, there was a not a colony, like just a native community that lived on this land, and apparently they struck a deal with like the government, that the government was like, look, you could stay on this piece of land, and they kind of gave them some land that didn't have shit. Like it was just like, oh, they're gonna just, there's no resources, whatever. The government kind of, on some government shit, cut the deal like, yeah, you can have this. Fuck it, they're gonna die off in that shit anyway. There's nothing over there. They fucking strike oil.
Yeah, gold.
They strike oil
during the peak of it.
Yeah. And this is when the car business was starting to ramp up, and they needed that oil. They strike oil, they become lit. They got they houses, they rich. They got white servants. Yeah. They got white people begging for jobs and shit like that. So they lit. At the same time, Black Wall Street is happening too. So Oklahoma is an interesting time around the 20s. But of course, the minute some people of color start blowing up, there's gonna be a white man somewhere hating, and people in the community start getting clipped. Showing up dead, mysterious circumstances. No investigations, just all of that shit. So the movie really takes place in that time where we meet Leonardo DiCaprio's character. He comes home from war. It was the Spanish War or something like that, right?
Something like that.
Like that. His uncle, I think Robert De Niro was his uncle. Yeah. And his uncle was like, he got bread. He's well renowned. He's a ally to the people.
He's like a doctor of like the town. Or
yeah,
like
he's an ally of the people. And this stuff start to pop off. Leonardo DiCaprio character meets a woman. Some of her family starts dying off and stuff like that. And this takes place all around that time. And basically, it was based on a true story. I didn't know. That shit was amazing. Lily Gladstone, she was great in it. She was great. She played Molly. That's the lady Leonardo DiCaprio got married to. She was great in it. It was amazing. I was really like, and it was cut so well. Them 3.5 hours, I didn't feel that shit at all. I was so glued and focused onto it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, it was amazing. It was amazingly made, man. It was perfectly crafted. I felt like just on a technical level, it was really good. I mean, I personally I loved it on a filmmaking level. As a watcher, I feel kind of conflicted about it, man. You know what I mean? Because it's based on a true story, so I feel like we could kind of divulge a little bit of details. If you don't want to know anything about the movie, stop listening, I guess. You know what I mean? What it comes out to being is that Robert De Niro and Leonardo DiCaprio are plotting to kill a lot of these members of the Osage Nation.
Which sorry to cut you off, because I didn't know it was a true story. That threw me off when it was revealed in the film.
Right. Yeah, Scorsese comes out at the end and kind of has a real.
That was cool, by the way.
Yeah, that was interesting.
I like that.
That felt very. Yeah, that was very artsy. That was cool. It was just being in the protagonist seat of Leonardo DiCaprio's character just really makes it tough to be this was because I a lot of Native American prominent actors and critics have come out and kind of echoed the sentiment too, but having it from the perspective of his character kind of makes it seem more. You feel more empathetic for him.
Yes.
You feel more understanding of what he's doing, as if because he is being manipulated from his uncle Robert De Niro's character.
And there was a consultant on the film. I saw. I think it was on the red carpet or something. There was a consultant on the film that basically said the same thing. He was I think it's a cool film, but I have issues with this.
As an Osage, I really wanted this to be from the perspective of Molly and what her family experienced. But I think it would take an Osage to do that. Martin Scorsese not being Osage, I think he did a great job representing our people. But this story is being told, this history is being told almost from the perspective of Ernest Burkhart. And they kind of give him this conscience, and they kind of depict that there's love, But when somebody conspires to murder your entire family, that's not love. That's not love. That's just beyond abuse.
He's in the movie too. He's in like the very
first, right?
He's like in the beginning of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I knew you looked familiar.
Yeah. So he was in it. It's just because of the choice of the protagonist, right? But then again, it goes to speaking like that's Scorsese's thing, right? Like that's what Taxi Driver is inside of the mind of a killer. That's what Kings of Comedy. That's what that is as well. That's what a lot of his films are. Casino, Goodfellas, like taking you inside the minds of like the most like amoral kind of people.
Yeah.
With this one, it's kind of interesting because whereas a lot of Scorsese's protagonists, I feel like are kind of smart. Maybe some of them are kind of dumb, but Leonardo DiCaprio's character in this movie is extremely dumb. So it's just making it seem like this little kid in a grown man's body being kind of like used in the puzzle piece, which again, it just makes it feel more empathetic to what the actual situation was, which again, if it was, and I think that's why, you know, some of those critics will say if it took place from like Molly's perspective, more or less, then I made it, you know,
but you know,
like that. But you know,
but Scorsese came out, and it's so funny. Of course, you know the white film bros had to tap in.
Right.
Scorsese came out and was like, "Yo, I want to tell this from the perspective of the natives." You know what I'm saying? He said because the book that's based on really goes heavy on the FBI side of things.
Yeah.
And you know, of course, they talking about Scorsese like he's, you know, like he's an amateur, like or he's fishing for an Oscar. He's trying to make it diverse just to get an Oscar.
He's trying to get woke.
He don't need that shit.
Right.
He don't need that shit. He's come out and said that he don't need that shit to validate his work. So what the fuck are you talking about?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Right. But, you know, as he said that, I was kind of surprised that as I came out of it. And because the minute I got out of that film, the next morning, I started looking into the real story. And I was like, oh, shit, yeah, he did kind of tell it through. You know, just like as you explained it. And it's just kind of like, did he tell it in their perspective? Like, it's still very much, you know what I'm saying? Like, very empathetic towards that character that was very much involved in the genocide of the people.
Right. Which is, you know, not, and then, but maybe that's what makes great cinema, right? Maybe that's like what exploring interesting characters, flawed characters, and like flawed, like gray moral sensibilities are, right? That's what a lot of great cinema does. But I feel like with this, you know, particular story, I mean, and then Scorsese, I think, coming out at the end, and proclaiming like, you know, this is wrong. This is why like these white people are basically evil for doing this. Essentially, he basically says that directly to the viewer to let you know, like, hey, this is how I feel about it. But you know, there's also just exploring that perspective for most of the movie. It just, you know, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I just feel like with race and with just, you know, I don't know. I guess what I'm saying is like being a white director, I guess he does feel the obligation to like have responsibility. But then it's still like through the perspective of whiteness, essentially. So, you know, it's no shame to Scorsese. It's no shame to like, the storytelling, because the storytelling is phenomenal. Some of the best we've seen this year, for sure. Like, it's probably one of my top 3 or 4 favorite movies of the year, just on a pure filmmaking level. But yeah, I just like, it's hard to escape those feelings too. You know what I mean?
I always say, in your most earnest of efforts, especially white men, white people, the story when it's told through your lens, you just don't. There's just you miss. There's no seasoning. If not to cut ass on them, but it's just like you lack something that a black or native filmmaker or Hispanic would tell with these stories. The minute you jump in to tell stories of other people, it still comes from your perspective. You know what I'm saying? If you RB want to make a film about Stokely Carmichael and you lose out to a white filmmaker, you know of Stokely Carmichael. You know what you know. You live in the community. We're kind of born with that, the trauma and everything of the past. We kind of you know it's more authentic when it comes from us as opposed to a white filmmaker that got to go do research. You know what I'm saying? And you could tell when somebody's doing research and when somebody's speaking from a real place. You could tell the difference. So at the end of the day, it still comes off that way.
Yeah, you know? It still comes off, but it's very close to, and it's very close to getting like both sides. I mean, it's very close to getting into the native understanding. I mean, there's one scene where the chief is just cooking like in the tent, like he's kind of giving a monologue, like these white people are taking everything from us, and the camera just sits still on him for like almost 5 minutes or something like that. If him just going off, that was amazing. You know, seeing the beginnings of the film, like seeing their heritage and tradition, and seeing that wool exploration going off, even at the end when they're like having those like funeral services and the drums. It was like all the shots, everything felt like a very beautiful representation of the Osage culture for sure. Yeah. It was just, it's still, it's just, that's just how the nature of the movie is. No offense to the movie.
Yeah.
I guess, when you have to review the movie that you're watching and not the movie that you want to watch, right? So I guess the movie that I watched, it was it was a phenomenal piece of cinema.
Yes. So. And I'm telling you right now, I don't know about you, I approve of Lily Gladstone winning that Best Actress.
Oh yeah,
being nominated as Best Leading Actress. Big emphasis on the leading, and winning that because her story was heartbreaking. Yeah, so heartbreaking.
Coming soon to a theater near you.